Hey guys, good evening. Thank you so much for joining Joe and I in the kitchen tonight. We are going to make a mushroom mascarpone with some kale, all superfoods tonight. We've got our mushrooms, an array of bellas and oyster and shiitake mushrooms with a little bit of cremini. I've got some porcini mushroom powder with some dried porcini mushrooms that we're going to infuse with some of the pasta water. We're going to use Cavatelli tonight. I've also put some of the Trader Joe's mushroom umami seasoning blends in it. I've got some scallions, salt, pepper, olive oil. We've got some wine tonight. I'm going to be using Josh Cellar's Rosé. You can really use whatever white wine or rosé that you drink. It's just going to add a little bit of flavor. This is more of a drier rosé. I prefer to drink a sweeter one, but I picked this up specifically so that I can cook with it. And I have some blended cheeses as well as mascarpone and pecorino romano for topping. So I'm going to get started. I'll meet you over at the stove. What is happening? I'm going to get started and I'll meet you guys over at the stove where Joe and I will be cooking.
You ready to get started?
Yes, are you done with the trash?
Did you record already?
I was attempting to. So I have put a generous pad of butter into the pan now that everything is hot. And to this I'm going to add my mushrooms and my garlic. It's going to be a lot of mushrooms tonight. As a shortcut, I am using minced garlic in a jar. No judgments, it's just as good. So I'm over a medium-high heat and I'm going to let this reduce down.
Is the pot salted?
It's generously salted. How's it looking, love?
It's looking good. Looking delicious. Smelling even better.
So we'll give it about 10 to 12 minutes on the mushrooms before we add the wine.
How long has it been?
4 minutes.
Okay.
Give or take.
Can you set the timer?
Nah, I figured
Okay.
6 more minutes.
Okay, what do we
Alright,
got here?
so now we're going to put our pasta in for about 8 minutes.
Delicious.
We're going to give our mushrooms a stir.
Perfect, just run them around here. Okay.
Alright, and now we're going to add our white wine. About 1/4 cup I use. The more mushrooms, the more wine. We're going to let that reduce down now.
Really let that cook off. Okay, what's next?
We're going to reduce that.
Just reducing it. Okay, it's only on a 4. Is that good? A little bit higher?
A 5.
Okay.
So once that reduces, then we'll add our salt and our pepper.
That's tracking me.
Because it loves you, because you're so adorable.
Well, we can train it to track your
In
face.
your working outfit. Doesn't he look so handsome when he goes to work?
All right, what else is cooking?
Mwah. What are you waving for?
Your fans. Okay, so this is coming up nicely.
You need to stir this as much.
Well, it gets it that way it doesn't stick.
Alright, let's do the salt. As always, unrefined salt and some pepper.
So we reserve the pasta water. Flame down on the pasta. And let this continue to cook beautifully. How long on this one?
I set a timer so you didn't have
For
to
the
ask.
pasta?
Yeah.
Okay, very good.
How about that?
Nice job.
It's like I knew you were going to ask me, so I was a step ahead.
Okay, good work.
So we have reserved about a cup of pasta water. Before Joe drains the pasta, I did use it to make the porcini sauce. So all the powder and the porcini dried mushrooms are in this bowl. So as you can see, all the pieces have been absorbing the liquid, and that is going to go into our mushrooms over on the stove.
Right, so this is reduced pretty nicely, Chef.
You think?
I think so. Look at the difference.
Okay.
Just in that short period of time.
So you can add the pasta to the mushrooms now. And I will add the broth as well. We're going to combine that.
Good.
Alright, in goes our kale. We're using dinosaur kale, just because I prefer it. It'll wilt down rather quickly. So while that's happening, I'm going to take a generous scoop of the mascarpone and get that in. This is a very rich dish, so the less cheese you use, the less rich it will be. So if you don't want it that rich, don't use that much mascarpone. It'll melt down in the pot. It does take a few minutes. And while that's happening, the kale is kind of getting wilted, but it's not getting overcooked because we want to keep the nutrients in the kale. We don't want it to cook off. So we're just going to incorporate that. Now while Joe is incorporating that, I'm going to get the Italian blended cheeses. I'm coming in over your left shoulder, and I'm just going to, about a half a cup or so, quarter to a half or third. No, I never really measured it. So between the porcini mushroom powder, the mascarpone, and the Italian Parmesan cheeses that just went in, it is forming its own sauce. So we're on a medium to medium high heat. We're just gonna let that sauce cook in for a minute. You wanna taste that for seasoning, love?
Very nice.
Do you need any salt or pepper?
I don't think so.
Why don't we crack a little fresh pepper on it?
Okay.
So that's pretty much the consistency of the pasta. As you can see, it is nicely combined, wilted down. The cheese is combined, the sauce, everything is looking good. And now I'm going to have Joe plate.
Action.
Really? How come you never want to stand next to me when we do closing ceremonies?
Because it's tradition. Tradition.
Alright, Tevia. So, we've plated the pasta with the kale and our mushrooms. I'm going to take some fresh cheese and grate some of that over. You can use whatever fresh cheese you have in the house. This is a Pecorino Romano. So ordinarily this is where I would put chives on top, except we don't have any. So I have some scallions and we're just gonna throw them on top just for a little bit of a bite. And there we go. So it took about 20 minutes to make this, give or take a few. It's a quick weeknight meal. I hope you enjoy cooking with us in the kitchen tonight as much as we enjoy making these videos. Thank you so much, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Have a good evening.